Hello and welcome back to another episode of Moving Medicine Partners podcast. I am your host, Zoe Taylor, founder of Moving Medicine Partners and real estate agent in St. Louis, serving the medical community nationwide. And Matt Humphrey is here today to talk to us about a very big medical city, home of Mayo Clinic in Rochester. Matt, thank you for being here today. How are you?
I am great. Just excited to be here. I love what you've built in this community, and I'm sure it took a lot more work than I even understand, but so happy I found you guys, and it's been a great resource.
Thank you. Thank you. We're glad that you found us or that we found you. Whenever you reached out to us, I was so excited. So we have an interviewing process when we onboard agents to our organization because we don't just take physician spouses. Like they have to be physician spouses that have been doing this for long enough to be qualified to be full-time knowledgeable agents in their respective markets. So you're not just getting someone that understands your life path, but also knows real estate and they're in it and they've done it and they can really, really help you professionally as well as personally. And Matt definitely covers all of those paths. It was fun interviewing them though, because he has such an unconventional path of how he found real estate. First of all, what were you in your former life? Because I feel like that is the most unique thing I have ever heard of.
I mean, it's unique to me too. It's nothing I planned on doing. I don't even really know how it all happened, but yeah, essentially after college, I started playing poker, and it's kind of like during the big poker boom. I don't know if you remember when all of a sudden everyone was having poker parties and hanging out and all that, but it was a little bit, I'd say maybe like 6 months or a year before that, I started playing poker, and I just figured once I graduated, I'd take a real job. I wasn't really sure what that was going to be, but I just had a lot of success playing poker early on and ended up doing that for 18 years. So traveled around a lot, lived in Denver and Miami and different parts of Florida, now Rochester, Minnesota. Yeah, whenever we moved to Rochester, I realized that, poker was probably done for me. I wasn't going to be traveling as much and made a little career change.
What are the skills you need to be a professional poker player?
I mean, you have to be good with numbers. I think most people think like poker face, that's
Yeah,
not
that's what I was
really,
assuming.
yeah. It's not really a thing. I mean, it is. You have to be even keeled. I think that's important. Same as in real estate. But, good with numbers, and you're your own boss. So the harder you work, the more money you make, which I appreciated. I mean, it's not always instantaneous. You have ups and downs, and you don't always get to realize those gains right away. But, poker in my mind is about like understanding people, understanding like what makes them tick. And I've always had a pretty good read on people.
I'm assuming that translates really well over into real estate. I know that even just my own life skills from being in real estate have honed and sharpened. And I'm assuming coming into it already with some of those skills in place from poker has just been pertinent, essential to being a great real estate agent.
It is. I mean, because a lot of real estate agents are really excited to share all the information they have, which is great. You always feel like you're trying to earn their business and their trust. But the very first step is to listen, to understand like truly what makes your clients tick. That's poker, understanding people and what makes them go and what their true motivations are.
You got to keep your cards close. Like there are agents that overshare, which I appreciate when I'm on the other side of the deal. I'm like, please give me everything that you have. I don't reciprocate that. I give them just enough,
Yeah, exactly. I know. I feel like a lot of times agents here feel like we're best friends, when we're talking about the deal. Like, oh, this is our offer, but we'll come up if we have to. Like, okay, great.
Good to know.
Well, we're probably going to come up then. In a lot of ways, like poker, you're playing for like such high stakes, such large amounts of money to like an everyday person, but the stakes feel so much higher when you're working with like a client because these are the biggest transactions of their lives. So even though, I'm accustomed to playing high stakes poker for, almost 20 years, like I'm still like really have like a thrill during a buy or sell and the negotiations. Like I love the negotiations. That's my favorite part of real estate.
That's awesome. I'm sitting here just like connecting all of those feelings and the different aspects of how these things align. And I'm just like, this is a great analogy for real estate. Yeah. It's just playing poker. But I like how you're saying that it's a lot more scary. You know what I mean? Like a real estate purchase is one of the biggest purchases that most people do in their entire lives, aside from physicians paying for medical school in the beginning. That's their biggest expense. The next one being house, and eventually, if they're getting a bigger house after they're an attending, that does become their biggest expense. But no, I mean, you have to take those skills and make sure that you're putting them to good use for them. So that's amazing. So your connection with the medical community, you are married to a physician. I also want to talk about during your professional time how you guys met, what she does, and what this path has been like for your marriage and relationship.
Yeah, so I met my now wife. She was in the last year of her med school in New York, but I was traveling for poker. I think I was like in Australia, then I went to New Zealand, and then I was just like, oh, I'm going to take like a month and go to Thailand. Like my second week in Thailand, I was on like one of those long-tailed boats that you might see in Thailand.
Like a
And
gondola type of thing.
yeah, exactly. And she just happened to be sitting right next to me. And, I had an amazing line, which I said, have you been here before? and tried to make it seem like I knew so much about like what to do here. And my wife's favorite part of the story is that, like, I'm like talking to her about like the area because I had been there previously. And the guy in front of us like turns around and starts giving advice. And she said I just had like the biggest death stare, like, because I wanted him to get out of our conversation.
He's blocking you, buddy.
Yeah.
Let me shoot my shot.
Yeah, exactly. So we met up for drinks that night and went to a Muay Thai fight, and the rest was history. We ended up meeting up. Like that was our only night that we got to hang out because I ended up getting like ridiculously sick. So she wrote in her journal that I blew her off the next day, which I think is so funny looking back. And she also described me as having a lot of swag, which is not me at all. So I'm not sure how good of a poker player she would be, reading people. But yeah, we ended up coming back to Indianapolis. I essentially hung out with her every day till she took a residency in Miami, and I went back down there, which I had lived there previously for poker. So it was a good fit.
That's amazing. I like adore your love story. I feel like it should be like a Hallmark movie or something for some reason. I can like see the whole thing playing out. It's so cute. So she did residency in Miami. And what's her specialty?
She's in maternal fetal medicine. So high risk pregnancies is her specialty. So she tries to diagnose things that are coming.
Did she do a fellowship then as well, I'm assuming? And was that also in Miami, or did you guys go somewhere else?
No, so we matched here at Mayo for fellowship, which, whenever we opened that letter, even though she ranked them first, it was still like a shock. Like, oh my gosh, we're moving to Rochester, Minnesota.
From Miami, that's a drastic temperature difference. Like,
yeah,
burr.
Exactly. We had like maybe the worst winter of all time. Like to us, when we moved here, it was like -20 for 2 weeks straight. You just can't even go outside. And we're like, all right, we'll do 3 years and we'll get out. This will be great for your CV. And, I was like, I'm excited. Like I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. So it kind of like felt like home to me being back in the Midwest, but we fell in love with Rochester. I mean, it's such a great community here, honestly. And I don't see us ever leaving.
And I want to talk about the community in detail here in just a moment, but just to talk about your relocations. When you met her, did you know anything about like medicine life, match day? Was that kind of a surprise to you of how all of that went down and how she was, just randomly selected to go to Miami and then the time frame to get down there and then the same thing for fellowship? Like, how did that feel to you as an outside person trying to fall in love with this woman who's just like bouncing all over? But you were a bouncer too, so like it's easy to keep up.
Yeah, exactly. I've been a little bit of a nomad my whole life. So I was like kind of excited, like, oh, we get to live here for 3 years. We get to live here for 4 years, so on and so forth. When I had met her, she had already matched to Miami. So she knew where she was going. Whenever we got matched to Mayo, that whole process was interesting. Like, how they rank you. You don't really know where you're going, but you have some idea. It was exciting. I mean, I loved moving around. I loved living in different places. And honestly, Rochester's my favorite place I've lived. And I've lived in like a lot of great big cities. And I just love the size of Rochester and the people.
What's nice about fellowship match, at least, is like it typically happens a lot earlier than like residency match. Like most residency programs, there's different specialties match. Like this year it's March 20th and then June 15th, they start orientation. Like that's a very short amount of time. Fellowship, you at least match earlier on in the year and you have a little bit more time to kind of like wrap your head around relocating. Since you were around for that process, how did you guys handle that relocation? Did you go up and look for homes? Did you guys buy? Did you rent? Was it sight unseen? How did you guys settle into Rochester?
So, one piece of advice that I use for all my clients too, that I received before I was even in real estate, is to use your local real estate connections to find you a good contact where you're moving. And that was huge for us. So I reached out to, my real estate contact in Indianapolis. He interviewed agents here in Rochester. We went there before we'd even met with an agent just to get a feel for the area. And then we connected with her and she just started showing us houses virtually. We already had like a good idea of neighborhoods and stuff after that. My one regret is I wish we would have met with her while we were there so she could have shown us some different areas. Because I feel like we almost got a little lucky in the area we found. We loved it. It was perfect for us. But yeah, we bought completely sight unseen. We had never been in that neighborhood before. We just kind of used Google Maps, and she did some like tours of the area virtually. We were excited, but it was nerve-wracking.
Did you use a lot of like online resources to narrow down the neighborhoods that you were interested in, or was that through communicating with your agent, or was that talking to other fellows or people in your program and kind of getting a feel from them of like different areas to live in? Because I know that everybody kind of has a different way in different cities of how to narrow down neighborhoods within the city.
I mean, honestly, we kind of just told our agent what we were looking for. She would send us some houses before I had her like go do a video tour for me. I would like do some research on the area. She would give us her input as well. Like, hey, this is a great area for like kind of what you're looking for. Highly recommend it. You know, without being in real estate, I thought you're just supposed to offer under asking on every single house. And I quickly learned with Mayo's incoming residents and fellows, nothing goes under asking. So it was a little crash course for me too.
Can I ask what neighborhood you ended up in and what it was you guys were looking for?
Yeah, we ended up in Elton Hills, which is like an old established neighborhood, a lot of split level homes, but there's walking paths everywhere. There's a river that runs through there. You can get anywhere in the city and you're 7 minutes from Mayo Clinic. So we loved it. Not a lot of rentals nearby, a lot of longtime homeowners, which is what we were looking for. So yeah, we really hit the jackpot there.
Are you still there?
No, we fell into the curse that every single attending falls into where it's like, oh, you just got a big girl job. Let's go buy a big house. And, even though we told ourselves we wouldn't do that forever, we just ended up building a new house. And now we live in Northeast Rochester, which is also right next to a park, which we love. And we love that area too.
I love that you just said big girl money because that's how I refer to it too. It's like you have baby doctors when they're in residency and fellowship. You know what I mean? Financially, they're still baby doctors. And then they're thrust into the world of like big people money. And it's like, okay, hold on. There's a lot of responsibility here. Like, let's not jump into this quite as quickly as you'd like to. But yeah, no, I get that. That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, we went to so many like seminars and stuff before that where they like told us like, never say you deserve this. And then by the end of it, we're saying, you deserve this house. You've been training for, 12 years to be a doctor. You deserve this. And I guess we do deserve it.
Well, gosh dang it. It's just, where does it stop? You deserve this vacation. You deserve this car. You deserve this watch and purse and upgrade and whatever. It's easy to fall into that trap. So you almost need to like make a list of like, okay, like we need to limit this at some point because that lifestyle creep is quick and it's crazy how fast that money just slips away. It's crazy. Yeah. So your wife's working maternal fetal medicine at Mayo. How did that shape like your understanding of the physician lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, with my connection there to the OBGYN department, I mostly work with like incoming residents and fellows and other attendings that are moving here. So I have a good connection with all those. I mean, I understand the difference between working with like a regular buyer and a physician. It's a lot of meetings like this virtually, a lot of hand holding because they need a lot of things explained to them. I always tell my wife joking around, like she's the smartest person I know, but when you get outside of medicine, she's like, oh, I've never thought about that. I never thought about this. I never did that. So like, I think it's like you even slow down a little bit more. You talk to them about how loans work. You talk to them about physician loans, which are, a lot of them haven't heard of.
Which is crazy to me.
I know, because they're so powerful. A lot of people come here and they're like, oh, I'm only going to be here for 3 years. Doesn't really make sense to buy. So, showing them the rental market in Rochester is actually really high compared to owning a home. So it's a pretty easy slam dunk because we have such great appreciation here and it's such a transient market with the turnover we see with the residents and fellows, match day, all that. So it's really a win-win to buy if you're only here for 3 years.
I like that you brought up the fact that your rental market actually costs more than, what the buy side would be with your mortgage, principal, interest, insurance, or whatever. There are some markets in the United States where your monthly payment on buying actually is a little bit more than renting. There are some markets where the rental market hasn't caught up and exceeded. And so that's a point that I don't think that a lot of people necessarily look at. And it's not always the same year to year. You may have a big boom where equity and appreciation increases exponentially. And so all of a sudden, the payments on home buying or the interest rates have gone up and fluctuated. And now home buying doesn't necessarily make as much sense on a month-to-month basis, but knowing that in your market, rentals do on average cost more. If you're looking at, the same 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house of what it would cost to buy versus rent, the payment may be less on the mortgage side. That's not the case in every city. Something that you need to know an expert to analyze that, to understand what's going to be the most beneficial for you. So
there's a lot of options here for rentals, but like I said, it's just the appreciation here is so solid. And with it being a small town and 1/3 of the town is associated with Mayo Clinic, it just makes sense.
what's the population of Rochester?
I think it's around 125,000 right now.
Oh my gosh, it is so small.
Yeah, which, it's growing, but it's never at the rate that everyone thinks. Like everyone thinks the big boom is coming. They are doing like a $4 billion destination medical center here in Rochester. So they're expecting more jobs from that. I mean, we do have
4 million with an M or 4 billion with a B?
with a B.
Wow.
So, we'll see what that means for Rochester. Rochester actually just got designated as more expensive to live than the Twin Cities, which you would never guess because we're 1/10 the size.
I mean, you're saying that they're trying to make it a destination place. I feel like Mayo is a destination place. I know lots of friends and family here in St. Louis. We have WashU. We've got some amazing systems. But when people think of getting second opinions on things, I feel like, Mayo is one of those clinics that everyone's like, okay, we're going to get a second opinion, which I think everyone should with big medical things. Mayo tends to be the name that a lot of people are like, okay, like this is a trusted place. We should go there. With that being said, total side quest and conversation, short-term rental market for people coming into town to analyze medical situations. Like, do you guys have a pretty robust short-term rental market? That could be why your guys' rental prices are so high. That's just me out loud.
I think there needs to be more short-term rentals, honestly. Like you see some unconventional short-term rental buys that people have made that have done really well. Like new construction as an Airbnb is not something you would normally see, but we do see it. You get on there and I've done my research to where I'll look and see like how often it's booked. They're just booked every single weekend. And, these are close to $1 million houses. So yeah, I mean, that is one thing that there is an opportunity for investors.
My wheels are turning. I'm an investor. So I'm always like, I bet that is a great city for a short-term rental purchase. I'm going to put that in the back of my mind and circle back to you sometime. Okay, so tell me about Rochester. We talked about population size. With that population size, I mean, you said you're 7 minutes from the clinic where you were during fellowship. I'm assuming like anywhere you live within Rochester is a fairly decent commute time, 20 minutes or less for anything, right? You could be suburbs, almost rural, and almost get to the clinic within 20 minutes with a city that size.
I don't think there's anywhere in Rochester that takes 25 minutes, even from northeast to southwest. It might be possible, but one of the first questions that people say, I'm like, all right, what are you looking for? And they're like, oh, we have to be within 20 minutes of Mayo. I'm like, not going to be a problem.
Well, especially if you're working with primary care, OBGYN, like they're one of the they need commute times. They have to be on call. Like baby's being born, I need to be at the hospital. Your wife's specialty, maybe not quite so much, but those commute times, a city like that, that's magic.
I would say close to 75% of our homes are within 10 minutes of Mayo, with the other 25% being within 20 minutes of Mayo. So it doesn't feel condensed at all. I mean, we still have tons of room to grow and we are growing more out towards Byron, which is out to the west of Rochester, but everything's close to Mayo, easy commute. We don't have a rush hour here. We do have a rush minute. At 5:01, the traffic can be bad, but after that, it's pretty clear.
I didn't know if during hospital shift switches, like 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., if that's when the hospital shift, if there's a little parking garage debacle for a few minutes, but no, otherwise we're good.
Yeah.
What's the average price point for a single family home? Not to quiz you and put you on the spot, but in general, what?
I would say around 350,000, like for an entry level first time home buyer is pretty standard. I mean, we do have some things that a lot of the residents and fellows end up going up to the 500 range, but we have that Elton Hills neighborhood that I mentioned. Everything there is mostly priced under 450,000, between 250 and 450. So that's the majority of our transactions.
And then, so that's, the residency side. Most residents are calling for single income, somewhere between 275,000 and 350,000, maybe. Just depends on taxes and insurance in every state and city and whatever. And then if you're dual income, you can go up to that 500 oftentimes. So that's where you're at. Do you have a lot of condos in Rochester? Do many residents fall into the condos, or is it usually single family?
So we have a lot of townhomes that people are very attractive to residents and fellows because they're no maintenance. A lot of them are new construction. But as far as condos, like people are always like reaching out, like, oh, I saw this condo downtown. Like we actually have like kind of a condo crisis here where the buildings aren't in good shape. The HOAs are super high. They might even end up demolishing one of the big condo places here. So I try to steer most people away from the condos downtown because there's just too much uncertainty.
That's been like that kind of growing and increasing over the past 2 years, a lot more restrictions and red tape over condo purchasing. We've talked about this in other episodes with other agents in other cities. So if you're listening to all
Hmm.
these episodes, this may be repetitive, but if this is the only one that you're listening to, there was a big condo complex that collapsed in Miami several years ago. And after that, there was a lot of red tape, understandably so, put into place where every condo complex had to go through like a structural engineer
Hmm.
inspection, more or less. And if there was anything glaring that needed resolved, the condos became unwarrantable, meaning that any federal backed loan, which is any like traditional, conventional Freddie, Fannie, even FHA, they will not fund a loan on any unit within that complex until that issue is resolved. And so, with that being said, there's a lot of people that are living in condos right now that can't sell them to anyone other than someone that can buy with cash or someone that has a portfolio loan. And most physician loans are portfolio loans. And there are some physician lenders that will allow you to go ahead and purchase a condo that's unwarrantable. But the red flag with that, or I would say yellow flag with that, is just know that in 3 to 5 years, when you want to sell that condo, it's going to be difficult because the only people that are going to qualify are cash and portfolio buyers. So you're limiting yourself from about 90% of the market from being able to purchase that condo unless that issue has been resolved. Now, if you're working with management of the HOA and they're like, hey, we already have a plan in place. Here's the contractor. Here's the budget. We already did a special assessment. It's being repaired. It's a great time to buy it when it's unwarrantable. And hopefully it becomes warrantable by the time you're ready to sell it. But you just have to have that in your mindset that things can always fall apart with condo complexes depending on what their reserves, like if it's being managed well and the reserves is high enough, whether there's any issues with the condo complex that need repairs, and there's going to be special assessments and delays in that. It's a little risky to be in condos because you don't
Yeah.
have control over it. And then
Yeah.
also
I
people are
mean,
like, oh, I'll just rent it. Ugh. A lot of condo complexes don't let you rent it, or they only
yeah.
allow a certain amount to rent at any given time. So you have to be put on a wait list, and whether or not that aligns when you need to move out and you can't sell it and you want to rent it, like you may not be able to because they may not allow you to use yours as a rental. So lots of
Yeah.
just little caveats and warnings. So sorry to take over the episode, Matt. I just like to give that little lesson because condos stress me out, man.
That's one of the first conversations I have with buyers is like, this is our plan when we go to sell it to reduce your stress on your end. Because the last thing we want to do is have a very unique property that you have to try to sell that limits our buyer pool and you're only here for 3 or 5 years. Like, let's find you a great buy that's going to appreciate that you're going to make a little money on that we know we can sell.
It's good strategy, solid
Yeah.
strategy. All right, pivoting because we went residents. They're here 3 to 5 years. You guys did a fellowship for 3 years. So it was like, okay to buy anything less than that, maybe. Attendings. How do you onboard new attendings coming to the city? How do you help them, especially if they're first time positions, first time big people job, like we talked about? Tell me how you handle that and how that conversation typically goes and where they're going and what they're taking into
Yeah.
consideration since commute time isn't really an issue.
Yeah. I mean, usually I like to start off with like, a video medium where I can learn a little bit about them and, what they're looking for. I started a website, Rochester Relocation Guide, and where people can get on, they can get information about the schools, a crime map, all these other resources that can be helpful for someone that's never been to Rochester. And then I like to try to set up a time for whenever they're coming to tour Mayo that we can get together and go to dinner and they can meet Janelle. Now they're making some contacts here in Rochester. So, really try to form a relationship before we just go right out and buy something. So the earlier I can get in front of them, the better. I'm currently working with someone moving here for the OBGYN department. And, it's a long process. It's trying to like stay in contact and to keep them up to date with like what's going on here. How old are your kids? These are great schools. You also have these options. So I feel like attending, they're just a completely different buyer, not just at price point, but for, they can take a risk on a very unique property. They're buying in their mind, as we know, every single buyer is buying their
The
forever
forever
home.
home.
Yeah. So they are just a completely different buyer, but, it's a unique set of challenges that comes with that. But I think it's a lot more fun to work with attendings. It's like, not only is it a bigger price point, but they're very excited about what they're buying.
I'm 50-50. I love my residents. And I think it's because they're just like deer in headlights. Like they are just in a state of shock and they need some mom to come in and just kind of like carry them through this process and like help them land safely on the other side. Like I adore helping my little residents, but I do love the attendings. So same thing, like I've got several attendings and what I like is like oftentimes you have much more of a heads up. If they're finishing fellowship, they've probably already interviewed a year in advance, know where they've taken, they've already signed on, maybe they have their bonus already, it's fine. What I find
Mhm.
funny or difficult or challenging is, they're like, hey, we're starting our new position next October. And it's like December of the year prior. They're like, can we go ahead and buy a house? I'm like, no, sorry. Lenders won't let
Yeah.
you purchase a home any more than like 3, maybe 4 months prior to your contract start date. And oftentimes they'll be like, well, I can move my contract up. We can move it to August. And I'm like, don't you end fellowship like July 31st? Would you like a day or two off before? I mean, like, I know you
They're
want to buy
not
your
interested.
house, and they're like, no, we really just want to get our house and get settled and get there. So it's just funny to have
Yeah.
those conversations of like, expectations. And so sometimes they're like, hey, we're moving there next October, and it's almost like a year in advance. I'll go ahead and set them up with a search portal. I'll let them kind of see all of the homes that fit the price point, the criteria that they're looking at, so they can keep an eye on the market, keep an eye on
Mhm.
things that come available, get an idea for the neighborhoods that they've found. It gives them a lot more time to research it. It gives them some power. It
Yeah.
just keeps them interested in what's
Yeah.
available. But it does suck when they're like, oh my gosh, we wish that this house would come up 6 months from now. And, it sells quickly or whatever. But I
Yeah.
do try to always get them involved in the city as early as possible so that they can keep an eye on things.
Definitely makes the whole process like so much easier. I mean, the residents and fellows, like I love working with them. That's the majority of my business. That's who I work with the most. It's just they're at such a competitive price point and a competitive time of year. And as well as anyone, like sometimes when you're getting into multiple offers, like you're only as good as the other agent on the other side, like the way they communicate. It's just stressful for both sides. So I appreciate like being able to take some time to truly evaluate a property instead of like bang, bang, bang. But you have to do
True.
what you have to do, I guess.
Yeah. It's different kinds of wins.
Yep.
What would be your best advice for someone coming to Rochester? I'm only mentioning match day because we're recording this episode. This is going to release later on, but we're recording this
Yeah.
episode March 12th. So match day is on my brain. It's next Friday. And that's kind of what we're gearing up for or whatever. But if someone were to match next Friday and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to Mayo, like they're going to celebrate on Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday, they're like, oh crap, reality is hitting. What
Mhm.
do you recommend they do? Reach out to you, reach out to lenders. What's your order of operation recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, I like reaching out to the agent first. I mean, and even possibly interviewing multiple agents if you don't have like a great feeling. Like, whenever I meet with a prospective buyer, I'm also interviewing them because I want someone that has realistic expectations, that's a qualified buyer that, will value my time as well. But I would say reach out to an agent, see if you have a good fit for them, ask them their history of, do you work in this price point that we're looking for? Like what's going to be different about when I'm buying compared to some of your other buyers? And,
Hmm.
try to get them to do a visit before they come is great. They get to check out Mayo Clinic if they haven't been here before. They used to do all these in-person interviews before residency and fellowship, and now they've stopped that ever since COVID. So
Thank
this is
goodness.
their
That was
first
such an
time.
expense. That was
Oh
such an
my gosh.
expense. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The amount of money that doctors were having to put into traveling and getting outfits and lodging and interviews. Like, I'm glad that they're finally doing it online. But yeah, it's crazy.
So, I mean, whenever people are able to come, I love to just like, hey, we're going to spend like a day, we're going to go get lunch and we're going to like look at some different areas and not going to take up your whole day. And I'll be able to recommend some fun stuff for you to do tonight, make a fun weekend out of it. There's plenty to do in Rochester for one weekend for sure. You can always stay entertained, but yeah, just giving them a sense of the area is great. That's something I highly recommend, like taking a trip if you can, if you have the time to come visit beforehand. But if not, really set clear expectations that what you want from your advisor or your agent.
What are some unreasonable expectations you felt like you've had from clients before coming in for Rochester? Are they like, I want new construction with an acre under $300,000? Is that like kind of what you're meaning?
I would say more time where they're like, they'll send me a list of 15 homes and they ask me to do a video tour of all of them. Whenever it's like, hey, we haven't even had that initial discussion on like what you're looking for, what you're approved with. You've never talked to a lender, and it's like, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Like, I'm happy. Like, I think we lose sight of that. We are in the service industry,
Hmm.
like our job is to make them feel like they're not a nuisance. So I'm happy to work for my clients, as hard as I possibly can and go show as many houses as we need to so they feel comfortable. But I'm not willing to just go show a $700,000 house and a $200,000 fixer upper, when you're not even pre-approved and stuff like that. So I would say, reach out to your agent, ask who does medical loans in your area, physician loans, and kind of go from there, get pre-approved, start the process. And I mean, not a ton of unrealistic expectations on my side from buyers. It's more from sellers, like, oh, I need this price from the home. And it's like, I would love to sell it for that price. No.
It's both sides. It's both sides. I've definitely been beaten up by some buyers before, and I've gotten better about having boundaries.
Yeah.
For a long time, I'm like, what about, I'll just do everything for everyone and drop everything at all times to be whatever you need for you. And I'm like, okay, I can't do that anymore. So whenever people are like, hey, last minute, can you go look at this house for me in an hour? That's like not even anything close to what you've been interested. I'm like, I don't really want to waste your time or my time or their time. You know what I mean? Like, and they're like, well, it doesn't hurt to look. It does. It hurts to look. It hurts me. We know that this is nothing serious. Go to the open house this weekend if you're just a curious bystander. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. Yeah. It's just kind of funny to always have to deal with those conversations. I agree with the pre-approval thing because I think that a lot of people, like, match day happens and they're reaching out and they're like, actually, I have people right now. I have 2 people right now set up on searches that they think they're matching in St. Louis. They're pretty certain that they're matching in St. Louis. And they're like, can we go ahead and start looking at houses? I'm like, absolutely not. Nope. Like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. You can call me on Saturday the 21st and let me know that, hey, I am for sure in St. Louis. You can preemptively have these conversations with the lenders so that on Saturday the 21st, they can be like, okay, you're good, but we can't look at anything ahead of time. I'll set you up with a search and you can go to open houses. But otherwise, those are funny conversations too. They're just so excited. And this whole waiting period this month is so stressful.
Rightfully so. I know that they are all so excited, and it is an exciting time. But buying a house, like when you feel rushed, is just like, hey, we have so much time. And like you said, like meet with the lender because they're going to tell you can't even buy a house for 2 more months or whatever it might be. So,
all right, I want some parting words of wisdom. You had mentioned something about the 100-0 principle. I want to know what that is.
It's a fine line, 100-0 principle in my mind, but essentially, like, it's a good way to feel grateful in my mind for what you do get. But I just try to give 100% of myself and my ability to my clients and any relationship I'm trying to form and just have 0 expectations of what might come back. And I think it's a great way to be grateful for the relationships you do foster. You take 100% of the accountability on your side for the good, for the bad. But like I said, it is that fine line because you don't want a client that's like completely never thoughtful about your own time. But at the same time, like we are in the service industry, we need to do everything we can for our clients. They're not doing us any favors by using us. We're going to do a great job for them, but we do have to like prove our worth. And I think that's important.
I mean, I've taken calls at 3 a.m. from a cardiothoracic surgeon that had just gotten off a call shift and we needed to go over inspections. And I think I had randomly sent him an email in the middle of the night or he had randomly sent me an email. And I talked to his wife earlier in the day or whatever. And he's like, why are you up? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you want to just talk about this now so I don't have to wait for you to wake up tomorrow afternoon? And he's like, fine. So I'm like down in the spare room, like going through an inspection notice and getting it all. It worked out great. But it's just like, being able to be on call and go outside of what is typically common and normal is what has to happen, especially for people with chaotic schedules and this like really tight time crunch for purchasing. And
I mean, that's working with residents, fellows, and attendings, right? It's like they're not getting off till 7 p.m. just because the normal work day is from 8 to 5. Those are not our hours. I am in the office most days it's from 8 to 5, but I also know like once my kid goes to sleep at 6 o'clock, I'm going to probably be on the phone for a little bit at some point that night talking to someone. So our job is to be available when they are, not the other way around.
Awesome. Well, if someone wants to move to Rochester, they're considering it, or they know that they're matching there, what's the best way to reach out to you? I did, while you were talking, pull up your website about the rochesterrelocationguide.com. That is actually amazing. That looks fabulous. What a wonderful website and resource. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that. But how else can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, they could send me an email at matt.humphrey@evrealestate.com. I mean, that's probably the best way. They can also give me a phone call. My phone number is listed on the website. So there's a lot of different ways to get a hold of me, and I'm trying to get back to people right away.
And regardless where you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple or iTunes or YouTube, in the description down below, Matt's contact information will be listed. So you should be able to find that fairly easily. Matt, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful relocation season, as we typically have in the medical world. And we look forward to hearing again from you in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time today.